Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darylyn, and today we're gonna do something really fun. I have been scouring the internet and noticing that a couple of new, really cool, interesting philodendron sports that haven't been around the block for very long have been popping up online, and I wanted to share them with you. And I think this is really fun because it's kind of been a while since anything like really shocking or really new entered the scene. And some of these are, for the first time in a while, things that are kind of exciting to me and like maybe are gonna go on my wish list. So I'm excited to share them with you. You can kind of think of this as like the addendum to the fancy philodendron video, but some of these are so new and like such unicorns still that there aren't really pricing anywhere available for them. So it's like hard to rank like how valuable they are, but my guess is that from what I did see and just like, you know, how like things kind of go in the plant community, my guess is that these would be super expensive, but still very cool nonetheless. So let's jump into it. But before we do, really quick, please give this video a like, consider subscribing, and consider putting your notifications for my channel on. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, and we are getting so close, you guys, to 5,000 subscribers, which is like the first kind of channel milestone that I'm coming up on in a while. So if you want to help me out, that would be awesome. But now that that business is out of the way, let's get into it. And so the first one on the list that I found recently that I think is actually really cool is actually a plant that I've been ragging on a little bit recently, but it's the variegated version, and that's the variegated Philodendron Majestic. Philodendron Majestic is a hybrid of Philodendron soderoy and Philodendron verrucosum. I don't know which form of verrucosum it is that created the hybrid, but these are super popular. They are really known for their like silvery appearance. I used to have them. They grow really well. They're great plants. Wild Fern has an incredible one. If you want to go pop over to her channel and check that out, if you want to get an idea of like what the plant looks like. But yeah, a variegated version has popped up. It's now like floating around in the ether in the community, and I think it's really cool. The example that I found is not the most spectacular version of what maybe a Philodendron Majestic with variegation could look like, but it's cool and it's interesting to see. I don't think I see as many of the hybrid type philodendrons with variegation floating around, so I am definitely going to keep my eyes peeled, and maybe we'll see a really spectacular one pop up eventually with like multiple tones of variegation, then also, you know, with the silver, and it'll be really cool. So the next one I found, and that's actually like really cool, and I'm super glad that I've been seeing these, is the variegated Philodendron Paraiso Verde. So for those of you who don't know, quick backstory, Philodendron Paraiso Verde is already kind of considered variegated because it has this really pretty modeling on it, but that's not actually technically variegation. That discoloration is the result of a benign virus that infects that plant, and that's how the cultivar was made. It was stabilized, and the virus actually responds to temperature. So the really beautiful Philodendron Paraiso Verdes that you see, those have to be grown in really high temperatures, like some people say like 90 degrees is what they like. I used to have one. I don't anymore just because I didn't like the color, didn't like stay in all temperatures, but I did have it during like the big heat wave last year, and it was really, really beautiful. This version that I've been seeing online is the Philodendron Paraiso Verde, but with actual variegation on top of the color that the plant puts out with this virus, and it's really cool. Some of them kind of look a little bit like sickly more so than others, but I did find one specimen that I thought looked really beautiful. Apparently there's also an Aurea version of this. I personally am much more of a fan of white variegation than yellow variegation, but you know, if you're an Aurea person, apparently there's an Aurea version of this that you can go and you can look up and see if you can find. I think that this is cool. I think that this would look absolutely so stunning, especially if there was like a two-tone variegation thing going on, and then also the plant was being grown in warm conditions and it had like really striking modeling. I think that there's potential for this to be really cool, especially since Paraiso Verdes are kind of known for being easier to size up than some other philodendrons out there. So yeah, I can't wait to see how more of these look eventually. It's always kind of hard to tell when things first come out, like how they're gonna do in the long run, but I mean, I think it's cool. Like I can't wait to see like in a year maybe what some of these plants look like if they get like really big, and see if the variegation holds up, because sometimes white variegation can be really difficult to preserve. So very cool. We'll see how it goes with those. So next is one that I've like hardly seen anyone talk about. I was only really able to find like this one example, and that is the variegated philodendron painted lady. And I personally am not like a huge painted lady fan. I think they're fine. I just think that they kind of look like a lot of other things, and like I don't have room for them, you know, like that in that form of just the regular form, just not for me. But I do think this is really pretty. It's kind of tough to see in this photo because it's very yellow, like just the lighting is very bad and it's very yellow, but the plant looks really cool. I think it would look even better in person than what I'm seeing here, and I like what I see here. I think this is really pretty. I don't ever hear about these, so if anyone knows somebody who has one or has one, like I'd like to hear more about like how this plant grows and if you like it or not. So this is cool. I'm very intrigued by this, and I really wonder like how much these would go for if ever they came up for sale. As far as I know, these are like unicorns. I've never seen them mentioned anywhere else, but I don't know how desirable they are. So if anyone has more info, let me know. I'd be super curious. Okay, so the next one is actually, I think, probably my favorite of what's on this list, because I think this is actually like really unique looking, and you just don't see a ton of plants out there that look like this. So I think it's really cool. And that is the variegated Plowmanii. But the cool thing about these is that they're not like your typical, you know, white variegation. Like both of the examples that I found recently, it's green on green variegation, but the lighter green is really like electric green, and it's very much a stark contrast between the two colors. And I just think it's so fun. It's so different. You don't see a lot of things like this where there's so much color and it's so bright and so contrasting. I do think a lot of the like green on green variegated monsteras don't really like do it for me, because the variegation takes such a long time to really like burn in to the point where you can see it. And I don't have experience growing this plant, so like I don't know if it just pops out of the leaf, you know, looking good like that, or if it's more Polaroid variegation and it's more of a process for it to start to really peek through and look really vibrant like that. But I just think that is so cute. Like I would definitely add that to my collection. Like of all of these plants that I've seen, I feel like this one's the most unique looking and the one that like speaks to me the most. I think it's really, really, really cute. So if anybody has one of these, tag me on Instagram. I would love to see it, because I think these are super cute. So the next one is, we're kind of starting getting into the territory where I am pretty sure that these are going to be like really pricey to obtain. There are a number of like variegated gloriosum varieties that are kind of coming out that are really different than like the OG variegated gloriosum that was, you know, really bright white that like kind of would come out looking pink. And that version of the variegated gloriosum is really beautiful, but it's just, you know, it's cool to see that there's like more coming out. And there's one that I saw recently where the plant is like, the leaves are very like light colored and there's like a lot of speckling, and it kind of reminds me of like Ilsamanii variegation or like maybe like Jose Bono variegation. It's really cute and fun and like kind of like has this like playful vibe to it. I think it's incredible. I think it's beautiful. And I don't know that the nursery that had it has had it long enough to really know like how stable the mutation is or whatever, but I feel like this is the kind of plant that if somehow, some way they could mass produce this, this could become like a huge hit amongst like, you know, casual houseplant keepers, because it is so cute and it's so fun. No idea like what kind of realm of possibility there is on that, but gloriosums have been popping up in a lot of garden centers this year. So I don't think it's super likely, but like I'm not gonna put it in like the absolutely never gonna happen impossible category. I think these are fun. And then there's also been some coming out that are more like green on green variegated. It's cool to see what's coming out with these. Philodendron gloriosum variegated used to be like the absolute most expensive plant out there. At one point in time, they were going for like $50,000, and that is absolutely not the case anymore. But I still can't imagine that these are gonna be cheap anytime soon. If I could get one for not like my whole like savings account, like I might think about it. That's like tempting. They're really cute, but who knows? Like if they're that variegated, like maybe they would be a nightmare to grow. Gloriosums in general are like pretty easy growing, but you throw variegation into the mix and like sometimes it completely like destroys everything. So I don't know, but I'm very, very curious to see where they go with this. Like maybe I'll never see them again, but I'd be interested to see if these catch on and if they become mass producible in any way. All right, so we are getting close to the end of it, and this is a plant that when I did the Fancy Philodendron video, a lot of people commented and were like, how could you leave this off? This is like almost as expensive as the variegated Philodendron Spiritus Sancti. And they were all correct. I probably should have put it in that video, but I didn't for whatever reason. I don't know. I just brain fart, I guess. It was a mistake. But that is the variegated Philodendron UPI. So these, I don't really know what they're going for now. I don't think that they're like a super, super highly sought after plant. Like they're kind of a really weird plant. They're definitely not for everyone. It's definitely an oddball. And then also on top of it, like I feel like the variegation, it seems like it's coming in yellow and then it fades down to white. I don't love that. I really do like the leaves that look white and have the white, the light green, and then the dark green colors on them. I think that's beautiful. But I'm not as big of a fan of the plant having leaves that are white and mint green and dark green, and also having leaves that are yellow. But that seems to be the characteristic on this plant. And then additionally, it has really, really weird leaf shape, and they grow in a way where they're just like very spindly, which is just not gonna be, you know, something that is like a mainstream kind of characteristic that people go for. I remember back when I was researching the Fancy Philodendron video, seeing one of these listed on Etsy for around like $10,000, I want to say. $10,000 to $15,000. There's absolutely no way in hell that anyone should be paying that much for this plant now, because I do think that it kind of failed to launch. It's really an obscure one. It's a collector's item. Like it's not something that you're going to be able to buy and then like flip cuttings of very easily to make your money back. I don't know what anyone's trying to sell them for these days, but like $10,000 to $15,000 is like completely out of the realm of reasonable. Do not pay that much for that plant. But they're very unique and they're very interesting. And I mean, I still think they're probably like in the thousands for like a decent quality one. Yeah, I see them being advertised by Indonesian sellers a lot. I don't see them being advertised by like domestic US sellers very much. So that kind of tells me that like the demand isn't really there for them. So just kind of be aware if this is a wish list plant of yours, like be very discerning with how much you pay for them. For me, like I'd probably pass on this one. Like I just don't really feel like it is that special. It kind of looks too much like other things. And then like the UPI like leaf shape is like, I think it's cool, it's a novelty, but it's not something I'd make room in my own collection for. So I think this is kind of like overpriced. Kind of overpriced. This is like a lot overpriced, but these are like new, kind of floating around. So just, I did want to like include it in the list. And then before we get to the end, the last one, honorable mention goes to the Philodendron Spiritus Sancti Mojito variegation version that came from the same batch of a pollination that produce all the other variegated ones that are floating around. I think the company is called Red Leaf Exotics. And yeah, it was a big deal when that plant was pollinated, because prior to that, I'm like pretty sure that there had never been a successful pollination of the Spiritus Sancti. And comment below if you want a full video on like why the Spiritus Sancti is probably like a genetic mess, because I've been thinking about that recently and I need like some motivation to like go research that. But yeah, the Mojito, or like the mint modeled variegated version of the Spiritus Sancti, also came out of that same batch. that one famous company got all the variegated ones out of. So I think that's kind of cool that there were that many mutations in that one batch. So I don't know if it was ever for sale, but I know that the regular ones, they were being sold for like $15,000 at first for the variegated Spiritus Sanctis. And I mean, they were good looking plants too. Like they had nice color. I don't know what they go for now, probably way less than that because that was like a year ago. And like plants are just not, like nobody is buying plants like that anymore because really like if you're buying something that's that expensive, like you're hoping that you can turn around and make money on it, obviously. But little honorable mention because I do think the plant is cool. Like it looks cool. But for me, like, I don't know, Spiritus Sancti is like not really my like cup of tea. It just like I never really like got the allure of it other than clout, which like, I don't know. For me, it just wasn't like it, but still very cool because as some of you know, like things like Ilsamanii and Burl Marks Mint and like Mint Monstera are some of my favorites. So I feel like of all the different Spiritus Sancti varieties, maybe this like mint mottled one is something I could get into, but alas, I digress. Let's move on to the last one, which is the variegated Philodendron Atabapoense. Now, I think this is genuinely like a unicorn of unicorns. I could not find hardly any pictures of these online. There was one that surfaced in like a grainy video and it had really, really like Billy Etier vibes, like the way the variegation looks, but the emergent leaves on it were definitely that burgundy kind of purple Atabapoense color. And then I found another plant that was marked Philodendron Atabapoense variegated, but it was very juvenile and like I don't trust that that's really what that is. But these are super, super rare. I did see one listing of this for $10,000 for like a small, medium-sized plant. I don't know how old that listing is, but these are super rare right now. Like they're barely online. So it's kind of cool to see like where the future of like unicorn philodendrons is going. I think it's interesting too though to see like what the initial like variegates look like as they pop up with these like new variegated versions of plants, because when you have these like new mutations like this, the genetics would probably be really, really unstable. So it's cool to see how much variegation they have and like how balanced they are. And it was super, super fun like researching for this video because I've been saving them as I've seen them for the last couple months. And today I was like, okay, it's time. Like it's time to like share this with everybody. But go ahead and comment down below. Tell me what your favorite of these is, because I definitely have a favorite. It's the variegated Plowmanii. And if you know of any others that I missed that we obviously need to discuss, comment, because I want to know as well. But that is going to be it for me for today. Thank you so much for chilling with me, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!